Bonjour, everybody. Hi, this is Neshi Lilcots. Welcome to Star Nations Organization's main fan page. We're doing a live stream this morning, like we do every morning at 10 a.m. Central, that's 11 Eastern, regarding the card draw for the day. And we've been doing this since the first week of May, I believe. I'm still using the sacred, the Sacred Path cards by Jamie Sams. And this week I added another layer to it, and that is the medicine cards. The medicine cards by Jamie Sams and David Carson. Yeah. And so the decks were actually meant to work together. Okay. And so we put that layer on. Yeah. Good morning, Elise, and good morning, Marianne. It's so good you guys are with me this morning. Here in Tomah, Wisconsin, we're about an hour east of the Mississippi, and sometimes here in Tomah it gets quite busy. Why? Because we are 3.5 hours from the Twin Cities and 3.5 hours from Chicago, and so we're kind of right in the middle. And where the interstate travels through the state of Wisconsin, this is where the interstate divides, where 90-94 splits, okay? And the reason I'm telling you this is that I want to get your opinion or your thoughts on something that I've noticed since I started living here 12 years ago. The interstate divides here, okay? So one part of it takes you into through La Crosse and over the Mississippi into Minnesota. The other one takes you a little bit further north toward Eau Claire, and then west over the Mississippi into northern Minnesota. Okay. So the storms that we have here, whether they're thunderstorms or whether they're snowstorms, they seem to divide right here. Many times the storms, especially the snow, either stays well south of us or north of us. Okay, and the storms the thunderstorms that come from the west will split here or end here, one of the two. And so, personally, I think either the interstate took a energetic path that was already here, and they built the interstate over it, or the interstate man-made created an energy flow that now nature kind of goes around. I know this is the ramblings of the morning, right? But our latest storm did the same thing. It blew through here, but it dissipated just on the other side, and it kind of stayed more to the north than it did to the south. And it's just a phenomenon. It's just something that a pattern I keep seeing over and over with the storms that go through here. So good morning, Allie. It's so good you're here. I'm so glad we got that thing situated where you can make comments in the live chat. I'm glad that got situated. So anyway, that was my morning ramblings as I was drinking my coffee, which is my first one for the day. I was sitting here waiting for the time to pass, and I was thinking about this last storm that went through and how this even when the local forecasters will talk about how it's staying south of the interstate or north of the interstate, and that it's just a phenomenon. I wonder which happens. I'm going to have to talk to my team about that if I'm so curious. And I have to say, this is the first place I've ever lived where I sometimes lose a sense of direction. Our house sits a little kitty corner on the lot, so it's not due east or due west, or it's not situated on the property that way. It's kind of turned a bit, and so my front door faces east, but it faces northeast, and so I sometimes when we first moved here, I would get which way was east, and couldn't quite feel it. I really had to concentrate And then it turned out that somebody who's lived here for a really long time in the area knows this part of the Toma very well. And she says that there's natural vortexes that occur not too far from here, and on property that her parents owned when she was young. And she said that even some of the trees kind of grow kind of twisted. Yeah. Interesting, right? This is what you call the driftless area of Wisconsin. And the driftless area, both sides of the Mississippi, I can't remember how many miles, but it's quite large. The driftless area is the last three ice ages, the glaciers went around this space. And so unless it was changed by humans, the topography, the geography never changed. There's there in some of the places, natural places that are protected now. We have plants that are growing there that shouldn't be growing here. And also other animals like, some snakes and that kind of thing that aren't necessarily found in other places of Wisconsin. So in the driftless region. Why am I telling you this? I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with the card that I drew today, right? Here's the card, and it's a brand new card. Now, in the deck, we have covered almost all of the cards, but maybe 4 or 5, right? And this is the card that came this morning. Coral. It's about nurturing. And I'll show you the artwork here. And so there's a coral necklace, and in the middle is like a medicine wheel, right? Yeah, it's not a dream catcher. It's kind of like the medicine wheel that people make to hang, like on a rear view mirror or in a window, or some people actually wear it as a necklace, medallion. So coral. And for those who might just be joining us brand new and don't know what this live stream is about, is that in the mornings I draw a divination card. And I've been doing this for many, many years. It wasn't until October of last fall that I decided that I was going to add a quote onto the Star Nation's Instagram account. And I started doing that. From the cards that I was selecting, Spirit was giving me in the morning. And then in May, I decided that it was like this light bulb moment that maybe those in our spiritual community here at Star Nations would enjoy hearing the backstory of that card draw. And so that's when I started doing the live streams. They're called native live streams because we're not using a third-party app. It's just a plain old live stream, right? And so in the mornings, I connect with my spiritual team and I ask to show me the energy for the day. What's the most important energy that we should know for today for the highest good? And so this morning, this is the card that popped out. Coral, nurturing. Good morning, Stephanie and Mary Anderson Fry. Hello. It's good to see you in the chat. So we've never had this card before, so it took me a little while to read through it and kind of sit with it for a little bit and ask questions to my team about it, And so it's about nurturing. And the way Jamie Sams explains the card is that coral comes from the ocean, and that the water for the Seneca, has always represented emotions, feelings. And that's the same for many, many nations, many tribes, many indigenous people have that same belief about water. It's that it's about the emotions. Yeah, Elise, it's called the Neshi non-show. That's true, because I don't treat it like a specific live stream show like Communications from Home, my Tuesday night show. or any of the other show hosts, their shows. Yeah, that's the non-show. And so the coral comes from the ocean, from the water, represents emotions. But she also writes about water. Here she says, coral is from the seas of the Earth Mother and the symbol of the blood of our planet. She says that the waters of Mother Earth are considered to be her blood. And the Potawatomi, we believe the same thing, is that the grandmother's water is her blood and represents the blood, right? And so she goes on to say that Native Americans see the Earth Mother as a living being with consciousness and free will of her own. She's a sentient being. She is the true mother of all living things. And so many times when you see coral in Native American jewelry, you'll also find it with turquoise. They're always paired together. Do you ever wonder why? Jamie Sams tells us why. It's because the coral represents the water, right? And the turquoise represents the land and the sky, in the blue, correct? And so and the turquoise has male energies, and the coral has female energies because it comes from the water. And so when you put the two together, you have male and female, and you have the balance, right? And it's normally set in silver. And the silver represents purity, the connection to the Creator. And so when you have those three pieces together, you have balance and you have the energy of the Creator in one piece of jewelry. Fascinating, isn't it? She says that the turquoise protects the wearer of the jewelry, of the turquoise, from bad medicine. This protection is also needed so that the nurturing can occur in a safe place. That's the reason why the turquoise and coral are worn together. It represents our parents, Grandmother Earth and Father Sky. And in the Potawatomi tradition, it's Grandmother Earth and Grandfather Sky. And so they come together. And so the Grandfather Sky, represented by the turquoise, is protecting the grandmother in symbolism with the coral, right? And they work hand in hand to protect and nurture all creatures that are connected by the family ties of the blood. She says that each human, each two-legged, has the need to be nurtured. You know, in medical science, it shows us, has shown us for quite a while, that when children, especially infants, are not nurtured, they have a lifetime of insecurity. And it takes quite a while for them to work through that, that they weren't nurtured as an infant. And so, that took my mind to what's going on down in Texas and how the babies have been removed from their mother or from their parent and their father. And so that kind of took my mind in that direction this morning. So I said a quick prayer for those children again, and asking for the protectors, angels, ancestors of the highest vibration and brightness to go to them no matter where they're at, all these children, no matter where they're at, and to be there with them, to protect them until oh my gosh, here's something, because it came through my mind. I mean, as we'll say it, the idiocy of some two-leggeds can get straightened out, and that they can be with their parents again, these children. So I said a quick prayer. She says that two-legged, some two-leggeds, because of that lack of nurturing, possibly in their early years, they have this belief or this feeling that they're alone. Okay, and she writes that that those of us that have also moved away from Mother Earth, grandmother, that we don't feel or see our connection to her anymore, don't remember it, is that those people also feel alone. And the fact is that her blood, the water, is what unites all of us. And that Jamie Sam says that the creator, the prime creator, God, in the creation of all of our relatives, all of the mammal and reptilian relatives here on Earth, we all have blood. Okay, and so our bodies replicate Grandmother Earth. And so it's the blood or the water that truly unites us. Think about that. What's Elise saying? She's saying, if you get her workbook, she shows how to use the cards together. Not that far into it, but interesting. I'll bring it in September. Okay, sounds good. Yep, sacred and medicine, that's for sure. So if grandmother's blood, her water, is what unites us, how the earth was populated, some believe that we came out of the ocean, out of her water. And so do two-legged children when they're in their mother's uterus, their womb. And how, the amniotic fluid, right? And how we're born, right? And this card, as a Sagittarian, as somebody who really enjoys the what ifs and thinking about the philosophy of things, it was a good morning to sit there and contemplate these things. It's like, oh, all right. So the coral represents Grandmother Earth, and all of that entails Grandmother Earth and the feminine nature of her. And so when we wear coral, we're actually wearing the symbolism of Grandmother Earth and everything that she's given to us. Represents our feelings. She says that using coral can allow us to reconnect to the blood in our bodies and to the waters of Grandmother Earth, or to Mother Earth. As our feelings and intuitions are connected to the water clan, we may once again feel the needs of our bodies as well as our spiritual needs. And so it's bringing ourselves back into balance. Because those of us, and I've been there, who ignore, repress, suppress feelings rather than feeling them, taking the time to actually feel them and then letting it go. Many of us, what we do is we push it down and we act like it's not there when it's still there. And it turns up everywhere in our life when we don't take care of our feelings, our emotions. It shows up in our dreams. It shows up in the reflection. Remember, we talked about that yesterday in that great smoking mirror, in the reflection that other people reflect to us. And so when we don't turn our attention to our emotions, all of our emotions, not just the positive ones, but also what we might deem negative, and we suppress it, it's going to come out somewhere. Has to. Made me think of something my mom told us a long time ago. We were just kids. Because growing up Native American in a Midwestern town in Wisconsin was not a really healthy situation many times between racism and prejudice. And it was not safe in many instances. And so basically she told us, is to be as steady with your emotions. Never show anybody what can hurt you, and never show anybody what really is important to you with your emotions. So you never cry when they hurt your feelings, but don't show them the happiness that you just got, something really cool, or something you completed something really cool, that you're on, the dean's list or the honors list, or graduated early, or could have graduated early from high school. You don't show those emotions, because when you show those emotions, then other people know how they can hurt you, right? Now, I know she was just trying to be protective of us. I know that, because she loves us, right? But that also taught me that to suppress and to repress. And it took me a long time, 20s, 30s, to learn how to express them healthy, and to not to shy away from the really strong emotions, is to go ahead and feel them and then let it go. And as an empath, to be able to feel other people's feelings and then have to repress that too. It was a really good lesson. Truly, it was, because I can tell when I start to kind of go pushing it down. It's like, no, wait, we've been there before. Then that doesn't work. We know that for a fact. And so how can I express this in the best way possible? And sometimes that happens lightning quick, in your thoughts. And other times it's like, sometimes you just have to say, what the F, and just have the emotion. Let it be there. And poor Paul, he's the one that gets to see it all. And he's still here after 40 years. Elise says, if you spend enough time with grandmother, she will teach you the great wisdom. Yes. Still plan on sending you that writing. Yes. Thank you. Please do that. And she's actually sitting out in nature. One of these days, we should have the show out there, out on the deck. That'd be good. I think I have enough cabling to do that. All right. And so there's just so much that Jamie Sams wrote about this. And it kind of reminded me of all those friends of mine who are Cancer signs, like many Cansmen. One of my sisters, she and I are really, really good friends, really close sisters and soul sisters, and she's a triple Cancer. And so, and learning how to walk with that medicine. And here I am, a triple fire, and learning how to walk with that medicine. But the coral is a gift to us, really, from grandmother. Yeah. So that we can use the coral in a way that will help us to remember her lifeblood, but to also remember to express our feelings. Yeah. Yeah, Mary is saying, I have not been able to really cry since 1979 after a heartbreak. That is suppression. Yes, it is. Yep, it is. Mary, do you feel the emotion? Do you feel the emotion that would maybe bring the tears, and then you stop the actual tears, right? Is that your experience? Is that you feel the feeling, and then the tears are like right there, and then you suppress the tears. You don't do that. You do the blinking kind of thing, and you get a glass of water. That's what my mother taught us, is that when, because the showing of emotion, in many cultures, they take it as a sign of weakness, especially the tears. And they'll actually say that, oh, she got weak. It's like, she didn't get weak. It takes a strong person to cry in public. And so my mother would have us drink a glass of water, and not necessarily even calling on grandmother to help us, to deal with those emotions. It was to wash the emotions down. And yeah. Yep. Elise is saying, I understand that, Mary. It wasn't a heartbreak for me, but trauma from my marriage. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Mary is saying yes, that she feels the emotions, but that stops the tears before they actually start to flow. Yeah, takes a long time. Yeah, it does. I had a private group here on last Wednesday, and we were up here. We were drumming, and some first-time drummers and some long-time drummers, and there's a couple ladies who were going through some things, and so I helped them with getting the energy to move and a healing. And one of the things that we were dealing with were the emotions. Were the emotions, and I realized because I was asking my team quietly to myself, what can I do to help? Is there anything I can do to help? And what was whispered to me in my ear was a friend of mine's name, Amantha, and then the word keening. And I realized, oh, okay, I have to help that person release that emotion. Because in the old Irish traditions is that when a beloved would walk on, they would die, they would transition. Um, they would have people come to keen for that person and to help the family actually express their emotions. And so many times when somebody was having a problem expressing that grief and the crying, that many times the women in the family or the professional keeners, they would go and they would hold that person. They would hug them. They would cradle them. They would, and give them a sense of safety and nurturing for this person to actually feel the grief and express it. Now they were feeling it. It was in the expression that it would occur. That was the problem. And Amantha and I we talked about this a long time ago, and she was saying that it, and many times that's why it's the women who do that, will go and help that the person who is having an issue expressing, because it is more of a female nature to be that nurturing. And so, given that information in those two words, Amantha, keening, I knew that I had to go and be with the person that was having she was right on the brink of the tears, but she says it's like right there and it doesn't come. And so I just went and hugged her and held her, and she cried for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and I just held her, didn't say anything, not really. I think I was saying it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And we had healers in the room. We had empaths in the room, and I could, being an empath, I could feel how it was just so close, and how what's a good word to describe it? How frightening it was for her, and how devastating it was for her. And we had a couple of other empaths in the room too. And so as empaths, we can actually use that, our gift, to help people to end that expression, because we can feel it, right? And sometimes we can actually put it into a word, into a phrase, to help them. Because some people have problems to express it, to verbalize it, right? So nurturing. There's one other thing that Jamie Sams said about this card. This is the card that we got today, coral and nurturing. Is that many times with coral, it might also be paired with a shell, or a shell will be used for if you don't have access to coral. And they use the cowrie shell or the leopard shell. When I read that, I thought of my medicine dress. My medicine dress has 370 cowrie shells on it. And when I first was given that dress in the dream I had, the Dreamtime dream, the vision, back in 1999, and then it took me 5 years to bring it into the physical world. And when I was preparing to bring it into the physical world, we were working on it. I was working on it. My mother-in-law helped kind of sew the cloth part of it into the dress, and I was putting the cowrie shells and the beads on it. And each strand, it's a double. It's got there's 2 on each string, right? 2 cowrie shells, and each of those strings are beads. A string of beads has a prayer or an affirmation with it. And I remember when I was trying to figure out, what do I use? I know that there was a certain sound that dress made when I walked in that vision. And so what do I use? And on the earth plane, in the Ojibwa tradition, is the jingle dress, right? And that's a healing dress. It's a medicine dress. And so I thought maybe we'll just use the jingle cones. And I was driving from a friend of mine was running for an elected position for the state. And I was working on her election. I was driving from that meeting to a meeting with a seer about some dreams that I was having, other dreams, and just to have somebody to talk to about it. And on the way, I heard the word cowrie shells. And so I knew that I was going to be using the cowrie shells on the dress. And what I learned later was that those early medicine dresses, those early jingle dresses, before we had metal, those dresses were also still used, but shells were used. Okay? All right. Then I read this. So all these years later, it helps me put kind of another focus on those shells on my medicine dress. She says that the shell shape of the cowrie shell are shaped like the vagina of a woman and represented in the rebirth element of the life cycle. These shells are still used, and many times these shells are used along with pieces of coral, stones, and bones to divine the future of a seeker. So the shells on that dress, as an empath, help people with their emotions. It represents the water. It represents Grandmother Earth. And so all of these years later, it helps. There's another focus, another layer of understanding of that dress. I think that's pretty cool. That's why it took me so long to read through this information and sat there with it for a while. All right. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat room here. 1979, it takes a long time. Okay, and Stephanie is saying, it took years to cry after my sisters died. Tears come eventually. Yeah, they do. And Elise is saying, Neshi, I hope you realize what a wonderful spirit you have and how much what you say means to all of us. Oh, thank you, Elise. I really do appreciate that. It's good to know that, in words, because I can feel it, but to see it written, that means a lot to me too. And to tell you the truth, I'm sharing what's in my heart, what I know, what my experience is, and if that can be helpful in any way, then I'm doing my soul work, right? I'm doing my soul work. And she's saying that I think you nurture many of us each day. Yeah, Mary's saying your medicine dress is so lovely. Yeah, there's a certain feeling even when I put it on. Yeah, it could, when we feeling whole, a whole being, not the fragments that we see ourselves as or feel ourselves as. It's not, the inner child's over here and the higher self is over there, and the ego is all in this control issue thing. And sometimes we see ourselves as being fragmented. These aspects of us disconnected or disjointed is probably a better word, disjointed. And it takes us a while to heal what we need to heal and to literally pull ourselves together. And when I wear that dress, I do feel myself as that whole being. It's just not the mental thoughts of it. It's the actual feeling of being whole. And just in that self is healing, right? And so when I wear that dress to help others, I get a blessing all at the same time. And that's a good thing, right? All right, so the card, Jimmy Sams is saying, all nurturing comes from the ability to pay attention to our needs and to our feelings. The Earth Mother loves and nurtures all relations equally. This form of unconditional love is the basis of beauty. Beauty is in the form of nurturing that is an accepted Native American understanding. To walk in beauty is to walk gently with a twinkle in your eye, loving thoughts in the mind, and a smile in your heart. Coral is a very special teacher who allows us to connect our feelings to all of our relatives, to the watery nursery of creation. And Coral helps us to listen with open hearts and to understand that to feel is to heal. That to feel is to heal. Yeah. That's a good one. I like that one. Mm-hmm. To feel is to heal. So the application, Jamie Sams writes that you are being asked to look at the idea of nurturing. It may be time to nurture yourself or another. If you refuse to be nurtured, it may be time to drop the superhuman attitude before you get sick. And she's pretty blunt with that one. Carl tells us that our bodies have needs too. Pay attention and be good to your physical body. Because I tell you what, when we feel the illness, when we get that diagnosis of that illness in our physical body, that is an indication that whatever it is that has been out here in our auric body, our bodies, for a long time, because it takes a lot of earth time for it to manifest here in the physical world, in your physical body. So it has to go through your spiritual body, your mental body, and your emotional body before it gets grounded to the earth plane in your physical body. So that's what she means, is to really pay attention. When something doesn't feel right, when it's like, what is that? No, something's not right here. Pay attention to that. That's that's part of you, that intuitive part of you that is sensing that something's out of balance. Something's not right. Okay. That's when you turn to your spiritual team. You ask for clarity. Show me this. What's my next best step? How do I understand this? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So pay attention. Pay attention to your emotions, to your feelings. Because your emotions and your feelings, we know that is the fuel. That's the fuel that brings our wants and our desires, that law of attraction stuff, catapults it into the physical world. Then it's up to us to ground it to the earth plane. So our feelings and emotions, a lot of people call it our GPS system. And I think that's true. I really do. So here she says that Coral always tells us to listen to our feelings. If you have been ignoring how you feel around certain people or how your body feels, Coral is insisting that you reconnect to those feelings. Remember, to feel is to heal. Coral. I love the poem about this too. She writes, Red coral, please remind me of the blood of all my kin. Each of us has feelings that reflect the joy within. May I nurture my own needs, then learn to share in turn the love that is my essence, the heart that in me burns. Yeah, it's a good one. All right. Let's see. Mary Anderson Fry is saying, write that down for us to walk in beauty. Is okay. I'll put that in the comment section. Okay. And yeah, I can do that for you. No problem. It won't happen till after this afternoon though. Because once we get done here, we go right into Polly Joe's show, Hour of Healing. I don't like to call it a show. Soul Connections. Soul Connections is happening at noon Eastern time, 11 Central time for today. This usually happens at 6 p.m. Central, 7 Eastern on Wednesdays. But there's a full moon, and Polly Joe is doing ceremony tonight for the full moon. And so we moved her show up to noon. So she's following us in 20 minutes. And so we have about 10 minutes to cover the other thing that which is the blue heron. This is the blue heron card that I drew from Spirit. Spirit kicked the card out. And so this is, I asked for what relative would be able to help us to understand the card or the essence of the coral in a deeper way, and for the highest good. And so this is the card that my spiritual team selected for us, the blue heron. And that's why I put the blue heron on the reminder post for the live stream this morning. The blue heron is about self-reflection. Yeah, that's about self-reflection. She says the heron medicine is the power of knowing the self by discovering its gifts and facing its challenges. The ability to accept all feelings and opinions without denying any emotion or thought. Heron flies over those who are unaware of who they are and where they belong in the world. Heron asks that they follow their intuition and begin the empowerment journey of self-realization. So if you pair that with the coral card, is that the journey of self-realization and the ability to accept all feelings and opinions without denying any emotion or thought. So rather than ignoring it, suppressing it, repressing it, is to acknowledge it. I see you. I recognize you. I've seen you before, because it keeps coming around to us in different forms, right? So when we stop to acknowledge that its presence, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to express it. You're acknowledging it. I see you. I notice you. I know who you are. Whatever that is, that feeling or that emotion. I notice you. It's the acknowledgement. That's a step. That's a huge step. Doesn't mean, it's kind of like when in the meditation last night, the unity breath, and I'm asking you just to notice your physical body, bringing your mind and all of the aspects of you back to the present moment. And I'm asking you to notice your legs. Notice how they feel. All you have to do is notice. There's nothing else to do about it. It's just to notice. What do they feel like? It's the same thing. is that when emotion comes, and it's a repetitive one, is acknowledge its presence, and then wait to see what happens in that acknowledgement, and just to accept the emotion or the thought is all you have to do in that moment. That's a big step. And so the blue heron, it urges us to dive into the watery world of feeling to seek your truth. The heron teaches us to develop our self-reflective skills so that you may come to know yourself in an intimate way. It's the emotions, it's the feelings. You know, and in my belief of the medicine wheel, how I understand it, it's the walk from the east to the west, from our mental mind and our thoughts, the ego, and all of the life lessons that we learn, all the experiences we learn along that east-west road. That's where we learn how to use our gifts, embrace them. That's where we get to learn how to balance out our mental thoughts and our emotions. Because in the west lies the water and the emotions. So that's part of our earth walk here, is to understand the balance between our head and our heart, our mind and our feelings. Yeah. All right. So the heron asks that you examine yourself with a cold eye to see what you wish to improve and how you want to change. Heron medicine people are willing to look at themselves and see the truth of their motives, actions, feelings, dreams, goals, inner strength, and inner weaknesses. In balancing those truths, Heron medicine shows you how to meet the challenges of your personal weaknesses and how to continue developing the skills that lead to the inner strength and certainty of purpose. Yeah. So when we learn how to master our gifts and all of our bodies and our mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual bodies, we have completion, right? And those are the people that you see that they look like they're really comfortable in their skin. Yeah. They know their weaknesses. They know their strengths. And that doesn't mean that they're not continuing to learn and to experience. It's just that they've spent time knowing themselves. That's all that is. Yeah. All right. So, oops. Heron is calling you to delve deeper, to know yourself, and to trust your path. The heron is a lot like the phoenix. It rises from its own ashes, the phoenix does, and the heron emerges from the unseen whirls of spirit into a new balanced sense of self in order to embrace the potential again and again and again and again. Just when you think that you got it, you understand it, I got the lesson, it could even be years later, it comes back around because now you're experiencing, not just in the mental sense, but you're experiencing it in one of your other bodies, the emotional or the spiritual, you know. And so that's what they're talking about here. Now, the thing is that J.B. Sams also writes about when the card is in the contrary. And so for those who don't know, it would be upside down. That's a contrary, okay? And basically with this card, she's saying that sometimes we become obsessive with the introspection, okay? That we spend a lot of time in self-reflection, and it becomes an obsession. And she's saying is that she's just reminding us is that self-improvement is best accomplished by balancing the desire to change with gentle discernment. Okay, is that when we spend all of our energy on just this one aspect, is that we're not balanced in other parts of our lives. Yeah. And that the Heron reminds us to dive deeply, but do not hold your breath while waiting for instant or total enlightenment. And I know some of us have experienced that, it's like, especially around 2012. When there was a lot of people who thought that either the world was going to end or that there was going to be this cataclysmic change, and it was going to change everything, right? And those of us who don't see the unfoldment in a linear way knew that it was an opportunity for change. It was we were given this open window of the space to change, right? And we're in it now. That's past, and we are in the new energy. And now we see, what do we see? Chaos. That's because there's still people waking up. There's still this energy shift that has happened, and Carl Franklin is the one who's kind of put it really well the other night, last week I think it was. He said that we're in the third and fourth dimensions, more in the fourth dimension, and with the fourth dimension there's chaos, because we haven't completely let go of the third. Some people haven't, and others in the fourth are acclimating to it, adjusting to it, integrating it, and so that's why there's this sense of chaos. All right, so here's the poem for the blue heron. The blue heron, thank you, sacred water bird, for sending me reflections to me, the mirrors of the quest for life, the worlds that live inside me. Show me how relationships work with my path woven within the whole, the lessons of kinship with all of life, reflecting my spirit's eternal goal. Yeah. So blue heron helping us in self-reflection, in how we are using the essence of coral. It's a good one. So glad you guys were here with me this morning to share this and to have a conversation about the energy for today. And so you just notice the world around you, how energy is flowing to you today, how it unfolds. What is the essence of the coral, and how can the blue heron help us with that? How that energy flows to you. And I always say it almost every morning. Are you a witness of it? Are you bearing witness to someone else's experience with it, to support them, cheer them on? Are you a direct participant in it? Are you the one that is sensing and feeling it? Yeah. So take what resonated with you today, embrace it, use it. And the things that didn't resonate with you, that's okay. Just let it go. Didn't belong to you, wasn't for you. Maybe it was just a seed planted, who knows? But you don't need to hold on to it. You can just let that piece go. And enjoy the rest of your day. And if you feel so inclined, join us in 5 minutes. Oh my gosh, for Soul Connections with Polly Jola Bay. It's all about healing. It's all about healing. And so Mary Anderson Fry, if you're available for that particular healing, that's something you might want to investigate and see if it can be helpful. Yeah. To help with the expression of those emotions. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody. And thank you for those who'll be watching the recorded version of this. I appreciate it. Share it with a friend if you'd like. Okay. Well, Bama Mina, until we see each other again tomorrow morning for tomorrow's card draw. Have a good day.